Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas,
And this is Mick, the Doctor of Digital.
and welcome to Music. No love letters, sorry, people. And welcome to Love Letters. Love letters are a collection of love stories of people get lost, get crazy, and disoriented in the name of love. Another week, another great episode. The Lost Art of Seduction, why masculine presence still captivates.
The Lost Art of Seduction, while masculine presence still captivates. It's background for our program because men have lost the slow art of subtle seduction. Most men never learn this because porn has trained them to skip this part.
Yes, definitely. So, how can we open this conversation so truly reach people heart to heart, Mr. Meg?
We ask, why do modern men seem so lost? Why have so many lost the slow art of subtle seduction? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Gotta be honest with you, this is just another dating advice episode. This is about something much deeper. It's about the erosion of fundamental human skill that once connected us at the soul level. It's about why so many women feel unseen and why so many feel like they're performing rather than they're connecting. So let's start here. Seduction used to be something men studied, revered even. Now it feels almost extinct. Agreed, the answer is from an article. Men have lost the slow art of subtle seduction. Most men never learn this because porn has trained them to skip this part, by Jeremy Letourneau. It all comes down to this, doesn't it? The forgotten art, the lost way. Most men today weren't taught education and seduction as a craft. They were trained, conditioned really, by pornography, dating apps, and social media with the culture of click and claim. It's microwave manhood. And as Latomo says, men confuse performance with presence. They think seduction starts when the lights dim and the clothes come off. But that's like saying a great concert begins with the encore. Seduction isn't the sprint to orgasm, it's the patient, intentional architecture of connection. It's psychological, it's spiritual, long before it's physical. And for many women, that kind of depth is what draws them, not just to a man's body, but to his soul. Let me share something that might surprise you. I recently spoke with a woman, a successful executive, mid 30s, who told me she'd rather spend an evening with a man who could hold her attention through conversation than one who looked like he belonged on a magazine cover but couldn't sustain eye contact for more than 5 seconds. I want to feel seen, she said. Seen, not evaluated, not consumed, seen. That's what we're talking about here, the difference between being evaluated and being seen. In conclusion, between being consumed and being known.
Being consumed. Wow, interesting. Mr. Mick, now I want to dig into something that might sound academic, but it's profoundly practical. You reference the word yada. Oh, yes, as an ancient idea of knowing. What's the deeper meaning there, and why does it matter for modern relationships?
In ancient Hebrew, the word for know, as in Adam knew Eve, isn't sterile. It's soul deep. It's not porn's friction, it's the soul's permission. Yada means deep experiential knowledge, relational intimacy, a kind of knowing that comes from union, vulnerability, and encounter. Genesis 4:1 says, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived." This isn't just a euphemism. In Hebrew thought, to yada someone means to encounter them with their whole being, mind, body, and soul. The prophets even used yada to describe knowing God. Be still and know, yada, that I am God, Psalm 46:10. This tells us something profound. True knowing involves presence, trust, and surrender. It's about being unveiled and still chosen. Today, we've traded sacred knowing for friction and filters, dopamine hits and hollow swipes. We know facts about each other, but not each other. We scroll endlessly, grazing the surface of connection while starving for intimacy. But here's what's fascinating, and this is where modern neuroscience catches up with ancient wisdom. When we truly know someone in this yada sense, our brains release oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin in ways that create lasting bonds. We're chemically rewarded for depth. The consequences of losing this: disconnection disguised as convenience. We've normalized surface level interactions while shaming emotional depth. We've made irony trendier than sincerity. But without depth, intimacy becomes mechanical. In conclusion, and without intimacy, seduction loses its soul.
Definitely. That's striking, Mr. Mick. So we're talking about biological imperative that's been hijacked by modern culture. But let's get practical here. What does this book look like in everyday interaction, and how does a man shift from a surface level connection to this deeper yada?
It starts with curiosity that goes beyond the resume. Most men ask questions like they're conducting an interview. What do you do? Where are you from? What's your favorite movie? These are surface level data points. A man operating from yada asks different questions. What's the most beautiful thing you've encountered this week? What's something you believe that you didn't believe 5 years ago? What kind of silence do you prefer? The silence of nature or the silence of cities? I remember watching a friend of mine, a man who truly understood this, in conversation with a woman at a dinner party. While other men were talking about their jobs, their cars, and their achievements, he asked her, "What's something you've never told anyone about yourself?" Not in a creepy way, in a way that conveyed genuine curiosity about her inner world. The entire energy of the room shifted towards their conversation because he wasn't trying to impress her, he was trying to discover her. In conclusion, and that's seduction in the truest sense.
Seduction, seduction indeed. This brings us to the masculine role in all of this. What is a masculine presence and how is it different from the performance we see often today?
Porn teaches friction, it doesn't teach rhythm, it doesn't teach restraint or reverence or tension. Real seduction is music, not a Spotify hit looped on shuffle, but Miles Davis between the notes, Tom Waits's gravel laced ache, Ian Hunter standing still on stage, one hand in his pocket, holding a crowd with just a glare. Modern men mistake speed for power, but real seduction lives in slowness. It begins when you slow your words, lower your tone, pause, and let silence stretch like velvet. That's presence. That's depth. That's gravity. Presence is the capacity to stay rooted while creating emotional space for another. It's not about dominating or posturing. It's about creating a sacred container, a kind of silent leadership that invites openness. And it can't be faked. Presence is self possession. It's a calm in the storm. It's the man whose energy says, "I am here and you are safe." This type of man doesn't need to announce his masculinity. It radiates in his steadiness. He listens with his whole body. He speaks with care, never rushing to fill silence. In conclusion, he understands that tension is not something to escape, but to master.
To be the master of the universe. Mr. Meg, let me push back on this a bit. Is there a risk here for failing into outdated gender roles? What about women who want to lead, who don't want to be held or contained?
That's a crucial distinction. I'm glad you brought it up. When I talk about holding or containing, I'm not talking about restricting or controlling. I'm talking about creating spaciousness, emotional and psychological space where another person can be fully themselves. Think of it like this: a great jazz bassist doesn't dominate the music, but they create the foundation that allows the saxophone to soar. They're holding down the rhythm, the harmonic structure, but they're not limiting what can happen on top of it. A woman who wants to lead in her career, in her community, her creative expression, still craves a partner who can build space for all of that. Who doesn't shrink in the face of her power? Who doesn't need to compete with her accomplishments? I know women who run companies, who give TED Talks, who lead movements, and they still want to come home to a man who can slow down time, who can create intimacy through presence rather than performance. In conclusion, because leadership in the bedroom and surrender in the bedroom aren't contradictory, they're complementary.
That's a nuanced take, Mr. Mick. So, how or now let's dive into a science behind this. How does revolutionary psychology help explain this desire for masculine presence?
Great question. Evolutionary psychology teaches us that human mating strategies evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. For women, the presence of a man wasn't just about desire, it was about survival. Women needed to select partners who could protect, provide, and remain stable under pressure. Men who were too impulsive, erratic, or inattentive weren't reliable mates or fathers. That's why things like tone of voice, posture, stillness, and depth of gaze still matter. They are nonverbal cues that signal self regulation and emotional mastery. A man who's grounded himself activates primal safety. His presence calms the nervous system, and a calm nervous system is a prerequisite for arousal and connection. But here's what's fascinating. Recent research in attachment theory shows that this just isn't about mate selection, it's about co regulation. When one person in a relationship is dysregulated, anxious, scattered, reactive, the other person's nervous system picks up on that and mirrors it. But when someone is truly present, truly grounded, it helps regulate the other person's nervous system. Dr. Dan Siegel calls this feeling felt. It's the experience of being in the presence of someone who is so centered in themselves that you automatically feel more centered too. So while the culture evolves, biology lingers, women are still attracted to the man who isn't trying to prove himself, but who already knows who he is. And finally, when he does speak, it's like velvet on skin. You looked at me like that again, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. It's like Ian Hunter singing No One. In conclusion, men are still wired to find deep satisfaction in being that kind of grounding presence.
Grounding presence, indeed. This is make me think about my relationships. But I have to ask, so what happened? Why is this kind of courtship and presence so rare today?
We've lost the rituals that used to shape courtship: the walk to her house, the letter, the dance of mutual unfolding. Today, most men are navigating relationships through apps, emojis, and casual hookup culture. That's less initiation, less intentionality. Technology gave us efficiency, but seduction was never about efficiency. It was about anticipation, slow burn, poetic pacing. Dating apps flipped the dynamic. They told men that quantity matters more than quality. They trained men to chase novelty, not depth. Add to that pornography and social media, and you get a cocktail of instant gratification. Men stop learning how to lead with presence because everything is a swipe away. Seduction becomes performance. Desire becomes consumption. We lost the music. We lost the rhythm. But here's the thing, and this might be controversial. I don't think we can go back to the old ways entirely, nor should we. Some of those traditional courtship rituals are built on inequality, on women having fewer choices, fewer opportunities. In conclusion, what we need is to take the best of what worked, the intentionality, the patience, the reverence for the process, and integrate it with the equality and authentic choices that we have today.
The best of the best, indeed. That's a compelling framework, Mr. Mick. Now, you have mentioned how presence shows up across cultures. Can you expand on that? Because I'm wondering if this is just a Western concept or something more universal.
Absolutely. While masculine presence may look different depending on cultural context, the essence is the same: grounded leadership. In Mediterranean cultures, it shows up in poetic verbal seduction. Think of Italian or Spanish men using language as music. In Nordic cultures, it's subtle and stoic, deep listening, protective quietude. In Latin American culture, there's an embodied charisma, dance, eye contact, reverence. The European model is interesting, and I'm struck by how men there would engage in conversation. There's a quality of unhurried attention. They could sit, drink tea, talk for hours, not performing, not trying to impress, just being present with the conversation. with the person across from them. In Japan, there's a concept called the pregnant pause, the meaningful silence. Japanese men who understand this don't feel the need to fill every moment with words. They're comfortable with silence, and that comfort creates a kind of magnetic presence. But the thread running through all of this is intention. In every culture, a man who moves slowly, listens deeply, and speaks with purpose becomes magnetic because presence speaks louder than style. It transcends trends, fashion, and generational slang. The truth is, women everywhere crave the same thing: a man who doesn't disappear under pressure. In conclusion, a man who remains fully himself in a world begging him to perform.
This is reminding me of conversation I've had with women friends who've traveled extensively. They often talk about feeling differently around men in different culture. Now I'm starting to understand why. But let's talk about something that feels particularly relevant today. What about emotional vulnerability? How does that intersect with the masculine presence?
That's the heart of it. We fed men a false binary: be stoic or be emotional, but not both. Presence is about integration. A man doesn't lose his power when he's vulnerable, he amplifies it if it's done with groundedness. The seductive man isn't ashamed of his past. He's owned it, integrated it. He can say, that reminds me of something I've carried. He can cry without crumbling. He can listen without fixing. That's strength, that's security, that's seduction. I think about Ian Hunter. Here was a man who wrote about his darkness, his brokenness, his longing. Songs like Irene Wild are vulnerable to the point of being raw. But when he performs, when he speaks, there is this quality of having been through the fire and come out the other side. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Vulnerability doesn't mean emotionally leaky, it means being emotionally available. It means showing your real self, not to impress, but to connect. And women feel that. In conclusion, they're drawn to men who have been tempered by fire, not undone by it.
I love that distinction, Mr. Mick. Emotionally available versus emotional leaky. Can you give us practical example of what looks like?
Sure, let's say you're on a date and she shares something difficult, maybe about her family or work, something she's struggling with. An emotional leaky man might immediately share his trauma, try to one up her pain, or get so absorbed in his emotional reaction that he forgets she's the one who needs to be heard. An emotionally available man does something different. He receives what she's sharing. He might say something like, I can hear how much that affected you, or that sounds difficult to carry. He's present with her experience without making it about himself. And then, if it's appropriate, if there's a natural opening, he might share something of his own, but he does it from a place of offering, not from a place of need. He's not sharing to get something from her, he's sharing to deepen the connection. That's the difference. Emotional availability is about being open and real while still maintaining your center. In conclusion, emotional leakiness is about losing your center and expecting the other person to help you find it.
That's a crucial distinction, Mr. Mick. Now I know our listeners are thinking this is all sounds great in theory, but what do I do? Let's talk practically. What can a man do to begin reclaiming this presence?
Well, here are 10 expanded practices. 1. Own your breath. Your nervous system regulates the space. Slow, deep breaths shift your energy. Train yourself to breathe when tension rises. I recommend the 4-7-8 technique. Inhale for 7, inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Do this 3 times before any important interaction. 2, speak with weight. Use fewer words. Speak slower. Let your tone reflect your presence. Stop filling space. Start honoring it. Record yourself having a conversation and listen back. Are you rushing? Are you using filler words? Practice pausing before you speak. 3, posture is presence. Your shoulders, spine, and eyes send signals. Steady and study how you enter rooms. Stand like your words matter. Imagine a string pulling you up from the crown of your head. Let your shoulders drop, your chest open, and your feet root you in the ground. 4. Silence is power. Practice long pauses. Look into her eyes and let the moment be. You'll be surprised what opens. Most men are terrified of silence, but silence is where intimacy lives. Get comfortable with it. 5. Master eye contact. Not aggressive, not staring, just soft, steady attention. It says, I see you, and I'm not afraid of what I see. Practice this with everyone: the barista, the grocery clerk, your friends. Eye contact is a skill that can be developed. 6. Drop the scripts. Stop reciting memes or mimicking influencers. Presence isn't parroting, it's discovering what you feel. When someone asks you how you are, resist the automatic good or fine. What are you feeling right now? 7. Move with intention. Whether it's touching her back or pouring a drink, make every movement deliberate. That's eroticism. Watch how you walk, how you reach for things, how you sit down. Can you do these things more slowly, more intentionally? 8. Ask better questions. Go beyond what do you do? Try what kind of beauty are you most drawn to in the world? Or what's something you believed as a child that you wish you still believe? Questions that invite soul sharing rather than resume sharing. 9. Refine your environment. Your space reflects your inner world. Clean your room, light a candle, craft mood. If you're bringing someone into your space, what does it say about who you are? Is it intentional or just convenient? 10. Commit to wholeness. Therapy, meditation, cold plunges, breath work. Do whatever it takes to meet your shadows. You can't be present with her if you're hiding from yourself. This isn't optional. In conclusion, these 10 points, they're foundational.
Those are incredibly practical, Mr. Meg, but I'm curious about implementation. How does someone integrate all of this without feeling forced or performative?
That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? The key is to start with one thing. Don't try to transform your entire way of being overnight. Pick one practice. Maybe it's the breathing, maybe it's the eye contact, and commit to it for a week. But here's the deeper truth. If it feels performative, you're probably not doing it from the right place. These practices aren't about manipulating outcomes. They're about becoming more yourself, more present, more integrated. When you're breathing deeply, you're not doing it to impress anyone. You're doing it because it centers you. When you're making eye contact, you're not doing it as a technique. You're doing it because you're genuinely interested in seeing and being seen. The paradox is this: the more you try to be seductive, the less seductive you become. In conclusion, but the more you try to be present, the more naturally seductive you become.
Naturally seductive indeed. I love that paradox, Mr. Mick. Now let's paint the picture here. What does this look like in a real time? Can you paint the portrait of a man who has mastered this?
He looks like a man who knows who he is and no longer chases what won't answer him. He doesn't seek applause. He doesn't need to perform. His confidence is quiet. He enters a room like he belongs, not from entitlement, but from integration. He listens deeply. When he speaks, people lean in. He isn't afraid of desire. He honors it. He builds a world, then invites her in. Picture this: he's at a dinner party. While other men are competing for attention, telling stories to impress, he's genuinely engaged with whomever is in front of him. He asks questions that matter. He remembers details from conversations weeks ago. When someone is speaking, he's not thinking about what he'll say next. He's listening. He doesn't try to fix her emotions. He holds them. He doesn't rush the kiss. He lingers. He doesn't ask, do you like this? He whispers, tell me if this is too much. He leads, but never forces. He burns, but never scorches. He invites, but never demands. I think about a friend of mine who embodies this. He's not the loudest person in the room, not the most conventionally attractive, and doesn't drive the fanciest car. But when he's in conversation with a woman, the rest of the room seems to fade away. not because he's performing some elaborate seduction routine, but because he's genuinely interested and present. He's curious about her thoughts, her dreams, her fears. He asks follow up questions. He remembers what she said last time they talked. And women notice this. They feel seen by him in a way that's rare in their experience. That's the masculine dance. That's erotic imagery. In conclusion, in a world full of performers, he becomes unforgettable.
That's a profound way to think about it, Mr. Mick. As we start to wrap up, what would you say to man who's listening to this and thinking, this sounds great, but I'm not sure where to start?
Yes. So when you're thinking of that, start with yourself. Start with getting serious about your own inner world. Most men have been conditioned to live from the neck up, to think their way through life rather than feel their way through it. Begin by asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? Now, what you think you should feel, not what's convenient to feel, but what's present in your body, in your heart, in your soul. And be patient with yourself. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are underneath all the conditioning, all the performances, all the trying. The world needs men who can be present. Your partner needs it. Your children need it. You need it. Start there. Start with presence. In conclusion, everything else will follow.
Everything will follow for sure. Another great episode, Mr. Mick. Thank you so much for being a masculine presence in uh, being seductive. And the lost art of seductions explore the timeless allure of confidence, charisma, and authenticity in the age of fleeting digital connections. Mr. Mike, would you like to plug in something?
Sure, if you wouldn't mind, the Doctor of Digital podcast, the idea to author coach on School, SKOOL, and on Facebook. And of course, a couple books out on Amazon. You can pick those up Earning America and On Track Ian Hunter.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Meg, the Doctor Digital, the podcast itself, and for sure the book itself too, and authors who want to be authors. And we are inviting you people to please do listen to our baby podcast, Mental Health 101, because Mental Health 101 is created to empower mental health awareness. Mr. Meg, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Until next time, Deus Volt.
More to come, people. See you soon.